Hello, my name is Ethan Scott Walden, and this is my video for our final project here. Um, I did a lot of things, but my main contributions were creating the bullet class. I made the NPC tank functional, and I also applied a texture to the terrain. Now for my 5-minute video demonstration. let's do this here. Um, yeah, I did. Yeah, one thing I did is that I made this audio file that wasn't playing play. That's the music in the background that you're hearing twice. Here's the NPC that I was initializing inside of this function here, this initializer, just so that he exists. Also I'm updating the NPC's status like just as you would with the rest of the tanks, right? And that would just call the update function inside of the NPC tank class, which I can show in a second. Because I did make a couple of changes to that. Yeah, I had to clarify that there's an exception. I added a bunch of getter functions to the tank class just for my own convenience because I needed some of these for bullet. Uh, Besides that, we have I added this random field to the NPC tank class because I decided to make a move to random spots. They were initially trying to make the guy like follow the player and like try to shoot at him, but that didn't work, so I just did this. I'm making it so that if the tank gets too close to like its target position, it'll just go find a new target position, which is some other random XZ coordinate. Very silly. Um, Inside the terrain class, I defined this grass texture and I applied it to I applied it to each of the triangles here. As you can see, I bound the texture ID to the GL texture 2D that was enabled up here, and GL text core to F. It just draws the texture over everything. And we just disable it because we're not working with it anymore. Bullet class. This defines the speed of the bullets. This is the texture ID, which I load with the image loader thing. I'll show how I made that in a second. This is a audio file that makes that little view sound. Variables here for X, Y, and Z, R, G, and B. Um, the direction that the bullet is going in. Yeah. All right. So I assign the colors to be the same as the color of the tank that created this that was passed inside of this well the tank that this was created for. I give it the same color. This right here is configuration for the bullet sound so that it can play in a valid format for this project. For some reason, Java did not like the original format of that little file, so I had to change it here. But yeah, I did that. I opened the clip and I played it after lowering the volume. Setting the Setting these values to the X, Y, and Z in the tank to be used down here. Same with the angles. These are all used down here. This is some of the code that I was talking about earlier, where I was like simulating matrix operate. No, not. I was simulating like little vector rotations on this little uh array here to find out where the certain things would be. In that case, that would be. In that case, I was using it to find out what direction, what kind of direction vector would define the direction the bullet is going in, and also to find out where the tip of the barrel is. And yeah, I just set the barrel position to be where the tank is, plus the offsets for each component here. This makes the bullet move further toward in its direction, depending on speed. This renders the bullet as a little 2D image, bullet texture ID. And this is rendering it, it's drawing a little square. Yeah. Here's some getter functions to obtain the position in case need that elsewhere. These are some other functions I have here that they were like little helper functions used inside the constructor to rotate the fake vector. Just as I was saying, to find out what direction it would be going in and where the little tip of the barrel was. I also ported over this code that was written by one of my other teammates to be used here. I wanted to just make it like a public function inside of the tank class, but that was inconvenient because some of these values are being used elsewhere. So I just ported it over to the bullet class, and yeah. The purpose of this was to again to find out where the little barrel offset was because I needed to know where the average height of the body was. Well, the tank, and that was used in the calculation of determining where the body of the tank would be. Yeah. I made my own normalize. I don't know why I did. I guess there's another one. And here's the image loader. This loads an image. This whole class is designed to load an image from a path, and that's what it does. This is just some initialization here. We need these values to make things work. We're going to load this byte buffer that is going to be used to create our picture. We want to make sure that it exists based off the image path. Yeah. We generate a new texture ID, just so that it's, yeah, we have to make a new texture ID. That's what it's mapped to inside of the GL operations. That's why, if you can remember, like earlier, like when I was doing like binding of the textures, this is how I had to bind it to. I had to bind it to the texture ID. So I'm making that here. I'm doing that again here, by the way. Um, and just adjusting some settings here. I believe these have to do with scaling, just so things look a little bit nicer when it's being laid on top of something that's bigger or smaller than it is. This is some more initialization. Just pretty sure this is just to get it into a format that Java likes. Um, and apparently some of this memory is not garbage collected, so I had to free some stuff, and yeah, that returns texture ID. And I did not do anything else in these other files here. Not in game client. I did not do anything in did not do anything game server either, and did not do anything in tank state. That is the thing. Thank you.